Scene 135, take one.
My name is Mona Jean Cedar. I was born in Watertown, New York, which is way upstate New York. I came to Los Angeles in 1976. I started in the poetry community. I think that's how I actually came into Al's, was through the poetry community. I don't remember the first time I was there. I just remember being there a lot. First as just a spectator, and then eventually when I started to become more familiar with all the people and had more and more friends there, and I'm a sign language interpreter, I started interpreting for different bands. Lutefisk, Touch Candy, Pop Defect, I think I did one of their shows. And then I would do my own sign language poetry and just play with anybody that came along. I was standing in some corner doing sign language, standing on the bar doing sign language. Fear was my fabulous favorite band ever. And I interpreted for X and Firehose and Mike Watt and a bunch of those guys. I was called the psycho sign go-go dancer. So I would be, like this crazy signing mad, signing. They would give me the lyrics and I would study them and practice them and then jump around and dance and sign and be crazy. And they let me, they let me show up in silly ass costumes with ripped up fishnets and hair shaved and punked, and they let me play with them. So I had a great time. Pleasant Gaiman, she was doing the Screamin Sirens, and I ended up doing sign language with them, and we all had names, Can You Fuck Her and Tammy Why Not, and I was Missy Man Chaser, and I did these, everybody's fucking my baby, everything in sign language, big bonus where I want to stay. And when they would introduce me, they would say, and here she is, our own little hand job sign language interpreter. She ain't deaf, but she sure is dumb. Missy Man Chaser. And so they were really a lot of fun. We played so many clubs. We played Club Lingerie, Cathay de Grande, dancing there. I just danced up a storm there. I took ballet classes in a studio above the Laza Club. So when I saw Laza underneath, I was like, oh man, I got to come back to this thing, whatever's going on here. Al's was always the grittiest. Even compared to like Raji's and Firefly, White Horse, that would be close. Al's was so strictly punk. The other ones would have rock and roll and hard rock and poetry. And poetry did happen at Al's, but it was not the kind of poetry that was happening at the Laguna Library or even beyond Baroque. You had to grab the audience or they didn't pay attention to you. And you had to kind of be very brave to be there. I had spent so much time there. You have to write something for there. It was my own homage to the place.
Al's Bar, where you're allowed to rock as hard as you can, to rock as hard as you want, to rock as hard as hell and loud and loose, and do whatever substances you choose. Al's Bar embraces all that are brave enough to be bad, to be mad. If you're willing, you're welcome to come and play on any Wednesday. No talent needed. We got girls and guys and girl guys and guy girls and the lousiest pool table in the world and weirdos wandering all around, but beautiful barkeeps and one big-ass doorman, and don't even think of arguing with him. You'll never win. Sweet talk won't win. You just pay the price and go on in where the bass beats your body with a million music sounds surrounding, embracing you with the energy of youth's angst exploding against the walls, echoing off the walls. The walls where you see the history, can read the history, the names, signatures scrawled on papers, posted, splattered again and again and again. Graffiti art. Yeah, it's art! You want to add your own? It's alright, because Al's Bar's rules, none. Oh, just one. You better T-I-P or you're gonna D-I-E. Come on, let's go to Al's. We'll have some fun.
My first husband, Satya Smith, and his partner John Cedar had a company, a business called liveclubs.net. And they came in and they set up 3 cameras and they would stream most weekends live. And they also had a little function on the side where you could do live chatting. A lot of the bands that came in from around the country would be streamed live out on the internet. And this was one of the very first ones of its time, and they streamed Al's Bar, and there was only like 2 other clubs in L.A. that were doing that at the time. And some of the bands, you know, you'd have to ask for their signature, and they're like, no, we don't want to stream live, like people out there are going to steal their material. And this is like, you know, 97 or right around there, you know. But it was very new. And what they also did was they took the old photo booth that was in the back and they converted it so you could live stream yourself out of the camera, or you could take a picture and email it. So this is like one of the very first selfie things. It was quite revolutionary at the time. Al's Bar was scary, exciting, exhilarating, crazy, freedom, fun, loud, all of the above. So much came out of that. I started developing my art and working more with sign language and poetry, and then I got into the poetry slam community.
I'm strong. That's my beauty. Come on, world. Bring it on.
And then I went to Chicago, and then they asked me to become the resident interpreter there. And then the year after that, Paris sent a slam team to nationals, and they saw me, and they ended up inviting me to Paris every year for an international poetry slam, where I interpreted it in 2011. I represented the United States on a slam team. I mean, so much came out of that whole community. A lot of fun, a lot of drugs and youth's stupid mistakes, of which there were many.
Cut.